Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're tackling a story that's, well, pretty old.
Ancient even.
Yeah, ancient, but still super relevant today. The Tower of Babel.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We've got a really interesting mix of sources for this one. We've got religious commentaries, historical analysis.
Even some modern day stuff.
Right, like looking at how social media is kind of like our modern Tower of Babel.
Oh, that's a good one.
By the end of this, you'll have a way deeper understanding of this whole Tower of Babel thing, the lessons it teaches us.
And how it kind of pops up even today.
Exactly. So,
where do we even begin with this story?
well, let's set the stage first. We start with the Bible, the book of Genesis. Picture this: humanity just after the Great Flood.
Everyone's speaking the same language.
Right. They decided to build this massive tower.
Reaching for the heavens?
Yeah, in the land of Shinar, which is basically modern-day Iraq.
Now, the text doesn't actually say they were trying to, literally reach heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think the tower was more like a symbol.
Oh, I see.
Like a monument to how awesome humans are.
Mhm.
A way to, make a name for themselves.
Like an ancient skyscraper bragging, look what we can do.
Exactly.
And then we've got this guy, Nimrod. He's like the ambitious leader.
Rallying everyone to get this thing built.
And everyone's super into it. They all want fame.
And they don't want to be scattered all over the earth.
They want to stay together.
That desire for, unity and a shared identity is a powerful thing.
Sure.
But God saw a problem with this whole ambition thing.
Yeah. What did the sources say about that?
One commentary, Lessons We Can Learn from the Story of the Tower of Babel Wisdom Begun, called it, straight up rejecting God's mercy.
Whoa.
They were provoking his wrath.
Okay, so God's not happy. Why did he put a stop to the tower?
All the sources agree. God was displeased.
Right. We got that part.
He wasn't down with their arrogance and all that self-reliance.
Yeah, they were kind of acting like they didn't need God, weren't they?
Exactly, like they thought they could just reach heaven on their own terms.
Interesting.
Which raises a good question. What exactly was it about the tower that was so arrogant?
Yeah, good point.
Was it literally how tall it was? Or was it more like the reason they were building it in the first place?
The fame, the making a name for themselves above all else.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Makes you think.
The sources highlight how pride can lead to sin and separation from God.
True. There's also this divine awareness thing woven through the story.
Right, the idea that God is watching everything, judging our intentions.
And holding us accountable.
Exactly. Now, instead of just wiping out the tower, God did something different.
What did he do?
He mixed up their languages.
Yeah.
Total confusion.
Wow. So they couldn't understand each other anymore.
Nope. It scattered everyone, stopped the construction.
That's wild. And that's where all the world's different languages come from.
That's what many people believe, yeah.
Kind of like, is that a punishment? A blessing?
Yeah, it's complicated, isn't it?
On the one hand, it causes all this miscommunication and division.
But it also created this, crazy diversity of cultures and ways of thinking.
Make things way more interesting.
Forces us to try harder to understand each other.
Which brings us to social media.
Oh, good transition.
Haha, thanks. Some sources, like The Hidden Lessons of the Tower of Babel, compare social media to, well,
Our own modern-day Tower of Babel.
with all the likes and followers and stuff.
It's like we're all trying to reach this digital heaven.
Haha, I like that. We're like those ancient Babylonians, craving validation and recognition.
Building our profiles, trying to be insta-famous.
Sometimes forgetting about real connections in the process.
We're all speaking different languages online, curating our personas, fighting for attention.
It's a chaotic digital landscape for sure.
And all that chasing validation can actually make you feel more anxious, sad, isolated.
So ironic, right? We're super connected, but also often feeling super disconnected.
Makes you wonder, are we building our own virtual towers, trading real relationships,
For fleeting digital ones.
and losing that spiritual grounding?
Big questions to think about, for sure.
Makes you think, are we really connecting or just building these empty digital monuments?
It's a question I wrestled with. Trying to show this, perfect version of myself online, it's tiring.
I hear you. A lot of people feel that pressure. One source, the lesson of the Tower of Babel, Genesis 11.1-9, actually calls this online self-promotion
Oh, wow.
a form of rejecting God's mercy. It's like saying, hey, look at me. Look what I did.
Instead of acknowledging,
That our talents come from something bigger than us.
it's not just what we post, it's why we're posting it. Right?
Exactly. If we're only looking for likes and followers to boost our self-worth,
We're missing the whole point.
this brings us back to that idea of submission to a higher will.
Which was a key takeaway from the Tower of Babel story.
Yeah. It's about realizing true fulfillment doesn't come from building our own little empires.
Whether they're physical or digital,
Right. It comes from aligning ourselves with God's plan.
and using our gifts for something bigger than ourselves.
Now that's powerful.
It's so easy to get caught up in the whole social media whirlwind, you know?
Everyone's pushing their own agenda.
How do we stay grounded? How do we resist building those towers of, like, self-importance?
Understanding unity through the Tower of Babel offers a really cool perspective.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It reminds us that those people working together, that was a good thing.
Okay, so unity itself isn't the problem.
That's what we're unifying for, right?
It needs to be guided by something higher.
Exactly. By God's will, not our own desires.
So, like, social media gives us this amazing power to connect,
Build communities around good values.
amplify positive voices.
We can build a new kind of tower.
One that celebrates real connection, compassion, purpose,
Right. The source talks about the importance of a common standard.
which would be like God's word.
Let faith guide your actions online, not the number of likes you get.
It's so easy to get lost in those numbers.
It is. And there's another danger here. Syncretism.
Syncretism.
It means mixing different religious beliefs or compromising your faith to fit in.
So, like, watering down your beliefs online to seem more acceptable.
Exactly. The source talks about not uniting with carnally minded people.
Okay, break that down for me.
People who are super focused on worldly stuff, desires and pleasures, rather than spiritual things.
Ah, got it.
Doesn't mean you can't be friends with people who believe differently,
Right.
but be careful who you let influence you.
Online and offline.
Surround yourself with people who lift you up, challenge you to grow.
And encourage you to be your true self.
The hidden lessons of the Tower of Babel add something else here.
What's that?
God has a plan, and he'll stop anything that goes against his will.
It's kind of comforting to remember that
It is. We're not ultimately in control.
there's a bigger picture.
Trust in God's guidance, even when the online world feels crazy and overwhelming.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we use social media?
In a way that honors God, reflects our faith, but avoids the whole Tower of Babel trap.
That's the big question. That's a tough one. How do we stay true to ourselves online without getting lost in all the noise?
Well, the sources we've looked at have some good advice. Remember that divine awareness idea?
God seeing everything we do.
It's about realizing that our actions have consequences.
So, like, even small stuff online matters.
Absolutely. Think about what you share, the comments you leave, who you follow. Are you lifting people up or bringing them down?
Are we adding to the good vibes or, like, feeding the trolls?
Exactly. It's a good reminder to think before you post.
Don't just hit send without thinking it through.
Right. And remember, it's not about ditching social media altogether.
We could still use it.
It's about using it in a way that reflects your faith.
Like being a good example.
Yeah. Lessons we can learn from the story of the Tower of Babel wisdom begun. It says we should use our platforms to spread hope and encouragement.
Be a positive force online.
Share truth and positivity in a world that often feels kind of messed up.
And that brings us back to unity. We can use social media to connect with people who share our values.
Build communities, support each other.
Amplify the good stuff.
It's about building bridges instead of walls.
And remembering that real unity comes from following God's plan, not our own selfish desires.
Exactly.
So if we're comparing the Tower of Babel to social media,
Yeah.
maybe the lesson is that we have a choice. We can build our own little towers of fame,
Trying to get attention for ourselves.
or we can work towards something much bigger.
It's about shifting our focus from me to we.
From wanting validation to giving support.
From building walls to building bridges.
And remembering that even online, what we do matters. Our words have power.
You can make a difference, one interaction at a time.
So as we all head back to the online world,
Remember the lessons of the Tower of Babel. Choose humility over pride.
be aware, not ignorant.
Submit to God's will instead of relying on yourself.
Let your faith guide you.
Let your actions online show God's love.
Maybe together we can make the internet less like a confusing, chaotic mess.
And more like a reflection of God's beautiful creation.
Until next time, everyone, keep diving deep